morning, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. Hope you're doing well. We are in our 9th day of 100-degree Fahrenheit temperatures. It's supposed to end today, but they've been saying that since last Wednesday, so we'll see. So I've missed a couple days. We had a lot of social stuff going on over the weekend, and honestly, the heat, it just makes it so hard to get much done. But I'll show you where Mike and I are now at this point. These front beds are pretty much done. We might change up our technique for the second set of beds. So today I'm out here to basically clear those beds because they still have vegetation in them, irrigation, landscape fabric, all that stuff. So I've got to remove all that and get them prepared to be dug and have the hardware cloth put in those as well. But it's great because these beds up here are done. And when we get back from New York, which we have to go to this weekend for a family wedding, next week, I'll be able to transplant. The seedlings are looking wonderful. They're still not growing very much because it's been so hot. Cold hardy annuals really don't like to grow much in the heat, so it's been a struggle. They are back out in the greenhouse, but and they're healthy, but they're just not as big as they should be, having been in the soil blocks all this time. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how they do, because it's almost mid-October and the sun is lower and we have fewer hours of daylight. So that will definitely affect how big they can get and how much root growth they can put on before they kind of sit dormant for the winter. But it is what it is. Can't change the weather. Speaking of the weather, I can't believe it's a second horrific hurricane in as many weeks. I have lots of family and friends in Florida. I grew up in Florida. I went to high school, college, and grad school there in Tampa. And so my parents and my 100-year-old grandmother, who lives with them, have evacuated. They're going up to North Carolina. My sister lives in Chapel Hill. They're going to stay with my sister for a while, and I'm really glad. They live in the center part of the state, so it's a higher area. They wouldn't be in danger of flooding, but the winds from this storm, and they've already been through so many storms over the last however many years. I mean, I grew up there, so we've had a lot. But they're stronger and stronger every year. So I'm really glad that they evacuated. I was so worried. It's taken them a long, long time to get to my sister's, much longer than usual because the roads are packed, but that's a good thing. That means people are heeding these warnings. They are mandatory evacuations for the west coast of Florida, and thankfully people are taking it seriously. The storm surge for Helene was bad, but this is projected to be double what Helene's storm surge was. So basically what I'm hearing officials tell people is, I mean, the mayor of Tampa said, you will not survive. So please leave. And people seem to be heeding that. So I'm really grateful for that. Still have lots of friends I haven't heard from. I'm hoping that they are in the process of evacuating, and we'll see how that goes. But it's sad. I feel for Florida, just like I feel for everybody who is still suffering tremendously from Helene. It's awful. So while I hate our 100+ temperatures out here, and it's not normal for us at this time of year, we're okay. And there's no wildfires real close to us. It could be a whole lot worse. So with all of that sober news, let's go look at the beds and I'll explain what the next steps are. Okay, so might be hard to get a visual really for what this is going on here, but the first bed we did is over there. There's cardboard in that pathway because we are going to put wood chips down. Then we dug the second bed. There are wood chips and cardboard in that pathway already. And this is the next bed. We need to put down cardboard and wood chips for this pathway. This one is still active. So this pathway is done. We don't have to worry about it. Now, the reason this bed is not filled is that the way we worked it is we excavated a bed and put the soil that we excavated into the bed next to it. So all that's going to happen is I'm going to get probably 10 bags of potting soil, like just raised bed mix, to put in here, and then we'll top it off with compost. Don't really want to fill the whole bed with compost. That's a little too rich for plants. So we'll put just regular raised bed mix, potting soil down first, and then we'll add the compost. So I haven't had compost delivered yet because we're still trying to decide what we're going to do about this second set of beds. So let's go down there and take a look at those. So the whole time that we were excavating these, it was very hard work, back-breaking work, honestly, and the heat definitely made it worse. But our brains were going about how we could deal with this plot here. Same setup, 5 40-foot long beds that are 30 inches wide. But so this is the work I have to do today. I have to clear the rest of this, get all of this stuff up so we just have soil here. We talked about the possibility of renting a skid steer and literally pushing all of the soil up, laying down hardware cloth over the whole area, basically creating a giant box, and then, building up wood edges, which is going to be a tripping hazard and make it hard to get wheelbarrows in here. But that would, that part would save us all of the digging work. However, getting the soil back into the beds would actually be quite difficult because we wouldn't be able to run the skid steer over top of hardware cloth. It would just rip it up. So we nixed that idea. What I think we're going to do instead is break out the old, it's literally like over 50 years old, tiller that I have here that was gifted to me. It works and it's heavy duty, but it is very hard to control. So Mike will have to do it. The throttle doesn't stay in place, and so we're going to have to bungee cord that into place. But I think what we're going to do, and we'll still have to use shovels and move things, but I think we're going to try to use that tiller to just deeply till the beds so that we can scoop all that soil out more easily than having to break it up with shovels initially. And then we can just kind of do the same process we did before, make the cage, fill it, etc. So it's still going to be a ton of work. But what we were noticing when we did these beds is that, cutting the edges was hard, but scooping out the soil from the middle was even harder because it was very blocky, chunky, not easy to dig at all. And about 6 inches down, it's very compact, and it's like trying to scrape through concrete. So we were using our battery-operated tiller to just try to break that up. But that machine is not really meant to do that. That's more for like tilling already loosened soils. So we're gonna give this thing a try. So yeah, still a lot of work to be done. But based on the germination of what is in the greenhouse, because some of the trays just didn't germinate well at all, I think I have plenty to do the plan, the map. I can fill those 5 beds, but I don't think I'll have enough of certain ones to fill what I was supposed to because they didn't all germinate. And that's okay. So what I'll do is some of the stuff that was supposed to go in this section, I can always put there next week, and we'll just have mixed beds, which is fine. I do that a lot. And that way it gives us extra time to work on this area. So I don't feel massive rush. Also, 2 of these beds weren't even going to be planted until spring anyway. So, the critical thing is to finish these 3 beds. Obviously we'll do the whole thing, but I don't feel as rushed. I think this week I'm supposed to be getting the shipment of all of the tulip bulbs and the ranunculus corms, etc. I hope that's true because I would like to start those ranunculus corms pre-sprouting before we go to New York. We are leaving Friday morning and we'll be gone until Monday night. And so Pre-sprouting ranunculus corms usually takes about 10 days. So I would really like to get those started before we go, so that I can hopefully plant them at the end of next week when we get back, because I'm really far behind schedule. And that's not even really, I sowed everything, I've ordered everything on time. It's the weather that's keeping us back. So what I'm going to do now is just start cleaning up these beds, take out all the vegetation, roll up all of the landscape fabric and the irrigation so that the whole area is ready for us to attack with the tiller. This is not what I normally would do. Normally I don't till at all. Normally I would be broad forking these beds, adding some amendments and compost and planting. But again, due to the gopher destruction this season, it's just not tenable to do that because it'll be the repeat and I'll lose everything or almost everything. And I just can't afford to do that anymore. So these hardware cloth cages, they're great. I'm happy that we've got them in. But it does make it dangerous out here. So again, I'm not a public farm. In the past, I have had a couple of, not here, but at Fish Ranch, have had U-pick nights and it was very successful. People loved it. But this kind of thing, it's very dangerous. If you don't know where the stuff is, it's a tripping hazard, all that kind of stuff. I do have insurance, liability insurance, so that anybody who comes on the farm and gets hurt, that's covered. And I am an LLC, so that helps because in case somebody tries to sue us, it's the business and not us personally. But that was what was really going through my head when I was setting these up, was like, is this so dangerous? I know they're there, so I'll be very careful. But when it's raining and it's slick, I'm going to have to be extra careful. And so, it's just something that I have to consider, because that definitely means I'm not going to be doing public stuff out here for sure, because it's just not safe. It's not safe for people. These pathways are very narrow, which is fine for me, but for the general public, dangerous. But that's okay. You do what you got to do. All right, I'm going to set you guys up, and I'm going to, there's so many happy little lizards running around there. This little guy, couldn't get him on camera. They're very fast. They're Western fence lizards, super cute, and they just run around everywhere, and you can hear their little feet on the cardboard or the landscape fabric. It's like, they're just having fun, doing their thing. All right, I'm gonna set you guys up and I'm gonna get started. Before I do that, I just wanna show you, and this is 1/2-inch hardware cloth. This dahlia bed, even though it's not deep, this hardware cloth is basically on the surface, and I just filled it with soil and planted these dahlias. They did great, by the way. They're just done for the year. But I had 0 gopher intrusion. So this is what hopefully will happen on all of these growing beds. They just can't get in there, so they'll find other places to go. Now, I am also planning to extend this pollinator bed. I've got a whole bunch of wildflower seed coming. It's part of a program to plant wildflower, mostly native California natives, but some other just basic wildflowers. And we're asking lots of people locally in our county to do this in patches wherever they can. So I am going to plant as much as I can along the fence line here for the whole farm. And that, I don't care what happens to. So if the gophers take over, then they take over. And so far they haven't really bothered my pollinator patch, and that is not lined with hardware cloth or anything. So I think by providing habitat, beneficial habitat for them, and having these barriers, we'll have a much better season next year. At least I hope. All right, I'm gonna get started. It's getting hot. It's going to be cooler today, only 96 degrees Fahrenheit instead of 100. Doubt that my body will notice a 4-degree temperature difference, but at least these beds are in the shade right now for the most part, so that will help a lot. But I want to get this done before we hit those hot temperatures. Okay, as usual, I went through 2 camera batteries. I don't know if it's the heat. I think I'm just going to buy a whole bunch more batteries. They're just not lasting very long anymore. And they're old, so probably too much recharging. They're ready for new life. Anyway, that's a frog. That's a really super exciting thing to hear. Normally we don't hear them till the rainy season. Oh, does my heart good. Okay, so I only got 3 beds done. They're ready for the whole tilling thing. I did get all the vegetation cleared out, but I still have to do the landscape fabric and the irrigation on these 2 beds. But it's hot and I'm just done. I'm fried. So I'm going to listen to my body and be done for the day. Tomorrow, it's supposed to be cooler, but again, I'll believe that when I see it, because literally every night they've had to extend the heat advisory until the following night. It's nobody's fault. It's a massive high pressure system that just won't budge. But there is a low pressure system off the coast coming in. Hopefully we'll push it out and we'll start to get cooler temperatures. And there's even a chance, it's only 30%, for some rain this weekend. So fingers crossed, guys. We won't be here for it, but the beds that we've already dug are so dry, and the soil is so chunked up that it's not plantable at this point. Even when I put a layer of compost on top, there's still way too many air holes in there, just big gapes, you know. So the only thing that's going to change that is rain. So, and I know we're getting close to the rainy season. I can't wait that long, because it could be the end of November before we get any rain, real substantial rain, or even later, God forbid. I have to hope that it rains. My backup plan is, obviously I can rig the irrigation and start running it, but it's drip irrigation. So it's not going to really saturate those beds in order to like spread out the water. So I'm going to use the IBC tote, which is a 275 gallon tote. It filled completely for the rainy season last year, and I've been using it to fill buckets to put flowers in when I harvest. So I have about 150 gallons in there, which is great. And so I'm going to use that. I'm going to use my watering can and the IBC tote, and I'm just going to use all that water to saturate those beds that we've already done. That way, you know, they can, because they're hydrophobic, absolutely hydrophobic. So, you know, even if we get rain, it's going to take a number of rains and long, steady soaks in order to really loosen that soil up and make it not hydrophobic. So that's my plan. Next week, when we get back, I will just start, you know, pouring bucket loads of water over those beds. And yeah, I'll empty out the IBC tote, and that is a risk, because if it doesn't rain, I mean, we're going to get some rain at some point, but you know, we're in La Nina now, which means really dry drought conditions for the west and horrible hurricanes and stuff like that in the east. That's what that weather pattern does. Last year was an El Nino year, and it was pretty good rain-wise. So we're not expecting a whole lot this year. But worst case scenario, I can haul in water, truck in water, pay to have that IBC tote filled. It's 275 gallons. I can do that if I need to come springtime, when it's time to start harvesting flowers and stuff. So it's okay. And the irrigation is on a well. So, I mean, on the city system through the landowner's property. So that is not going to be a problem. Anyway, okay, so that's gonna be it for me today. Thanks for hanging out. I know that I'm kind of all over the place these days. I'm not doing very cohesive videos. Going through a lot right now. Just my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's earlier this year, and it's a blow. My great-grandmother and my grandmother both died from Alzheimer's, and my mom was my grandmother's caregiver. So I have seen what this disease does twice now firsthand, especially the end stages. And so my sister and I are pretty devastated. And my dad, of course, he has Parkinson's. He's doing pretty well, but the two of them also care for my 100-year-old grandmother who lives with them, who is actually completely mentally sharp as a tack. And while she's old and can't do crazy stuff, she's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with her. So it's stressful. My parents are going to relocate from Florida, where they live, up to North Carolina, where my sister lives in Chapel Hill, so that they can be close. They're moving into another retirement community where they can use their golf carts to get around, and they have really great health care there. And my sister will be able to see them every day. So it's hard being on the West Coast and not being able to help on a daily basis. But my sister and I are very, very close, and we talk every day, and she knows that I will be there at a moment's notice if needed. So I'm going to start traveling quarterly back just to spend some time with them all. And it's just hard. It's hard to watch someone you love go through that horrible disease. Dementia takes them twice. Because you lose the person that they've always been. And we've been seeing that for a while, so the diagnosis wasn't surprising. But I think my sister and I are both in the anger phase right now, because my parents have always been hyper conscious about their health. I was a kid who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in a house with no sugar. We were gluten-free. We ate a lot of vegetables. We exercise all the time. My parents work out, have always worked out. I mean, like lifting weights and working out. And my mom, up until just about 2 years ago, she's 78, was going to, she worked out 4 times a week. My father is in some really excellent boxing classes for Parkinson's disease. So that's good. He's still mobile. My mom's mobile, but she doesn't want to exercise anymore. But it just doesn't feel fair, because this was her biggest fear. Her absolute biggest fear was developing this disease. And she did so much research, did all the things. She did all the things. She, diabetes has a direct link to dementia. She did everything she could to make sure that her blood sugar was always healthy, and it always was. It just, genetics is genetics, but it's a blow. It's depressing. And honestly, my sister and I are scared for ourselves. I'm 54, and I could be developing amyloid plaques right now and not know it. So it's hard. And as much as you want to think that you're going to be able to fight these things off, doing all the right things, it just doesn't always work out that way. And so right now, my sister and I are in that anger phase where we're feeling like it's just not fair. Disease, no matter what the disease, is never fair. And it's always horrible to lose a loved one and watch them decline, especially your parents. So I know I'm not singular in this. I know that lots and lots of people have experienced this. Everybody experiences it. And it's sad always. But it's just what I'm personally going through right now. So it's been making it hard for me to want to be creative with videos and things like that, because my mind is elsewhere. So working out here is good for me. It's a good distraction. But I apologize for the kind of disjointed videos lately. I'm just doing the best I can. Okay, guys, thanks for listening to me rant. That was way personal, but what's going on with my life right now. All right, I'll be back out here tomorrow, maybe with Mike, and just getting more work done. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I will see you in the next one.